Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Connect Home USA Virtual Summit session, showcasing Connect Home USA connectivity case studies, roundtable with the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and Durham, North Carolina. My name is Sean D. Almeida for ICF, and I will be your webinar host today. We can go ahead and switch to the next slide. Before we get started, I do have a few logistics to go over with everyone today. All participants have been muted upon entry to the webinar. We do ask that you stay muted until the end of the webinar. You will have a chance to ask questions verbally if you choose to. Otherwise, we are using the chat box for any content-related questions. Please put it in the chat box so that our presenters can respond to them in real time. Otherwise, we will bring them up and ask them at the end. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat box and I will work with you directly to resolve those issues. If you do have a tech issue and you want to send privately, there is a drop down that says, right now it should say to everyone, but you can change it to hosts or hosts and panelists if you want to keep that private. Due to the limited amount of time, we may not get to every question, but we're going to try our best. And lastly, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the HUD Exchange. And with that, I will pass it over to our presenter, Sebastian.
Thank you so much. My name is Sebastian Dawiskiba with HUD's Office of Native American Programs, and it is my pleasure to serve as this session's moderator. We'll have a roundtable discussion and presentations from Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, as well as the Durham Housing Authority of North Carolina. Before we get started, just would like to go over our presenter bios. We'll have Melvin Green speaking from Durham Housing Authority. He is currently the Director of Resident Services. He was born in Mountain Home, Idaho, and grew up on Holloman Air Force Base outside of Alamo Gordo, New Mexico. Melvin is married with 4 children and 9 grandchildren. He holds a BA in Human Resources Management from the University of Phoenix. Melvin loves helping others realize their potential to achieve success as they define it. I love that. From Choctaw Nation, we have Josh Raper, who manages the Connect Home program. He has 1 year of experience with this program and 8 years of experience working for Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Before Connect Home, he served in various roles and duties. He was responsible for helping develop and establish the LEAP program, which is Choctaw Nation's lease to purchase home ownership program. Josh is a powerful force in the workplace and uses his positive attitude and tireless energy to encourage others to work hard and succeed. Josh is inspired daily by his wife and 2 children. We also have joining us today, Tony Wesley is the equipment technician joining the Choctaw Nation Connect Home team in February 2023. Tony is responsible for working with ISPs and their installation teams to provide low-cost internet services and providing devices such as tablets to residents of Choctaw managed homes. In addition, Tony also provides digital literacy training to Choctaw tribal members as part of bridging the digital divide among the Choctaw communities. Tony's education in computer information and prior experience in human resources have provided the knowledge and skills needed to better serve the Choctaw communities and people regarding digital training and development, whether in a group setting or individually. Tony is a proud member of Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma tribe and is honored for the opportunity to serve his people. And with that, we will continue with passing it along to Melvin Green with the Durham Housing Authority. Turn it over to you, Melvin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melvin Green. I'm the Resident Services Director for Durham Housing Authority here in Durham, North Carolina. And I'm here today to discuss our campus network project that we just recently completed last year. This project was born out of our being a part of the 2015 Connect Home pilot program. We were fortunate to be selected, and it was a jump start to us, which led us to our network project. Next slide, please. Early on, we partnered with the city of Durham, and we worked closely with them in many areas with the Housing Authority. And part of that discussion was how could we better serve our low-income areas by way of helping them to be able to connect to the internet. And through this conversation, a partnership group that consisted of the city of Durham, Durham Housing Authority, Duke University, Durham Public Schools, and most importantly, the Durham Housing Authority communities that we serve. Next slide. And with these partners, these were not the only partners that participated in this project, but these were the main partners that drove this project to its completion. Without these partners, this project doesn't take place. And each of these institutions played a key role in getting this project to completion. While doing this project, we set a construction schedule where we wanted to be complete by 2021. It was a robust schedule, but due to changes in project design, funding, and the weather, we ended up not finishing quite on schedule. We were about 6 months off, but regardless, we were able to complete that project that served all of these public housing communities that are listed on this schedule. Next slide. So for a project overview, the purpose of the project was to provide connectivity for our Durham Public Housing School students, which were residing in 8 of our public housing communities that Durham Housing Authority manages. And the discussion that began this project was sped along due to COVID. I know that COVID was a burden on a lot of households. A lot of lives were lost. A lot of lives were changed forever. But out of that, a funding opportunity came about. And through this partnership, the city of Durham was able to identify $1.4 million of their CARES Act funding that enabled us to complete this project that served 8 communities. And if you look at the slide there, the number of students that residing in each one of those communities. So during the process, we were able to learn some lessons. We chose our largest site, which was McDougal Terrace, which had over 300 public housing students. And through that process of that first community, we came to understand that reducing the cost of cabling and design to fall within funding, reviewing equipment to remove redundant expenses. And we decided, we had a discussion about vendor selection. And thanks to Duke University, we were able to use Duke University subcontractors, and Duke provided us with, they provided the technical support by way of in-kind services. And so, but one issue that we did run into was we had to spend all of this money before 2020, before the federal government decided they might want to take it back. So for each individual site, we were able to establish a set of steps in order for that site to be determined to be complete. We had to set up data closets and clean those up and make sure that they were ready for the equipment that had to be installed. The last mile connectivity, which is what Duke University and their subcontractors were responsible for, as well as the construction and installation of the campus network cable plant. And once all of that was completed, we were now able to start internet service activation. In order to facilitate all of the moving parts to this project, we set up a communications plan where there were predetermined responsibilities for three of the main partners. For Durham Housing Authority, we established a point of contact for monthly executive team meetings, and we were responsible for communicating with our residents. Durham Public Schools point of contact for communications was responsible for attending the monthly meetings and providing devices to each of our students. And before internet service was established, they were able to provide hotspots. And the city of Durham provided weekly notifications on the on-site activities and established an MOU with DHA for shared supportive network activities after completion of the project. The city of Durham is responsible for the network, but everything on our side and in our communities is the responsibility of Durham Housing Authority to maintain. Some of the lessons that we learned along the way was to ensure that from the beginning, make sure that you have all of your key stakeholders in place. The planning process took off rapidly once we were able, the city of Durham was able to determine that they would be able to provide the funding. And so it took us a few months to ensure that we had everyone around the table who needed to assist with this project. Make sure that you define and establish clear roles and responsibilities. Some of the delays that we experienced were because people may not have been in the know or fully aware of what their responsibility or role was. Set realistic benchmarks and timelines. As we were trying to get this project completed while our students were still doing distance learning, we did run into some natural problems by way of weather that delayed us, and also some issues with the planning and of the network itself. And make sure that you have open lines of communication. Working with this many moving parts and this many partners, it is very important that you have open lines of communication. And there's my contact information. If you would like to find out any further details about this project, you're free to reach out to me either through my cell phone number that's provided or through my email address. And I would now pass it off to Josh and Tony.
My name is Josh Raver. I'm the Connect Home Manager for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And I have Tony Wesley here with me. We're going to present this. So with the Choctaw Nation Connect Home program, and again, Tony Wesley is the field technician for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And we also have Shara Tabor, who's the Connect Home support specialist for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. The Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma is made up of 12 districts. It's over 10,864 square miles, which is larger than New Hampshire. We joined ConnectHomeUSA in 2015. Right now, we have 493 non-NAHASDA units, which consists of our LEAP, HOPE, and 202 properties. 642 NAHASDA, ARH, and ARH2 and IE units are connected. Out of 1,222 units, 1,135 are connected to the internet for a connectivity rate of 93%. And out of that, 1,016 units are connected to fiber for an 83 connectivity rate. For this fiscal year of 2024, we are scheduled to have 600 more additional units built and over 1,200 additional Choctaw employee rental units scheduled to be built also in the fiscal year of 2024.
I'm wondering if Sebastian, now would be a good time for if anyone has questions for Melvin, and then we could come back to Choctaw.
Yeah, thank you. Someone asked, which Melvin already put in chat, who has paid for this? Are residents responsible for paying for this service, or where would the funding come from? And then Melvin just responded, the city of Durham used CARES Act funding and the service of free of charge to our community members. And then Melvin, just for everyone's awareness, put in his email and his phone number in the chat.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. My name's Tony Wesley. Some of the primary barriers that we face going through our program is getting fiber to remote areas. So there's 4 towns that we have listed here. Makoshi, Spiro, Stewart, Wilburton, and Atoka. So if you look at the state of Oklahoma, we only have 2 major cities, Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Everything else is fairly remote. So these areas are one of our more remote areas. So getting fiber to those places is a challenge. If you can notice, Wilburton and Atoka, we have coax, which that was at the moment our only option in order to get our internet service to these areas, to our homes in those locations. The other part of our barriers is cost. So fiber costs, installation costs range anywhere from $25,000 to $80,000 per site. And with the Choctaw Nation, or with Choctaw Housing, excuse me. So you're looking at anywhere from, maybe we're building a site with 5 homes to give an example, there's this one of our sites in Durham, Oklahoma, we're building 100 homes. So depending on the size of the area, that fiber cost comes into play, and we have to decide, is it feasible to pay for the fiber to be installed there, or do we go with the coaxial, which may be already in the area. A lot of this also comes to our internet provider. So we've also got to look at if they don't have fiber in the area, are we making it worth their while to install that and go through that construction to put that in that place. Depending on the size of the site, that factors into whether we can get fiber to that area or not. The other part of cost is keeping the service costs low, a low cost to our residents. So right now, on average, I believe it's anywhere between $85 to $100 per household if you buy the internet on your own. So looking at how to keep the costs low for our residents, especially for our independent elder sites, which most of those are on a fixed income, we have a challenge there to what can we do? Do we have any funds where we can offset some of that? Also, one of the primary barriers at the moment is we only have 2 field, quote unquote, field technicians covering nearly 11,000 square miles, which is bigger than New Hampshire, or if you look at Maryland and Rhode Island combined. So trying to cover that area. And if you look at a map of Oklahoma, the Choctaw Nation is the southeast corner of Oklahoma. So very, very remote. We do not have any major cities in the area. We have internet service providers, but they may only be in certain locations, certain towns where they're making the most of their money. So getting some of our location service, that this is kind of the things we deal with, or the barriers that we have. One other barrier we do have is the digital education or literacy of our tenants. Mainly for, and I don't mean to sound ageist or anything, but mainly for those 40 and up is where we're seeing the biggest need for education in our area with our tribal members. Most of our younger generation grew up with it, or they have a good knowledge of it. I would say those probably 35 and younger have a fairly good knowledge of the internet and the digital education that we offer. Like I said, most of our training is for our those 40 and up, mainly for our independent elders. So some of the barriers for those is location of trainings. In our independent elder sites there, we do have some locations we can use, but for those in that in between who may be living 5 to 10 miles from one of our community centers, it may or may not be feasible for them to make that trip, considering they're also driving to appointments, to work. They may have family that they're having to support. So that's one of the things that we run into is locations for these trainings. Also participation, trying to find that sweet spot where I can have 5 to 10 or more people versus
picking times during the day when people may be at work. So those are some of the barriers that we struggle with, and we work very hard to try to overcome. And next slide, please. So some of the solutions that we've been able to come up with, and I apologize, we don't have a real good solution for the staffing just yet. We're like everyone else. We're dealing with budgets, trying to find different funding to offset some of the cost. But on our solutions for cost, what we've done is we're negotiating with our ISPs on waiving the construction costs to a lot of these sites. And what we're doing is, we're either waiving, if they can waive it, or lowering the cost, trying to at least lower some of that cost. What we're doing is we're building in areas where we know that the Choctaw Nation will be able to continue growth in that area as far as housing and supplying housing for those areas. That's our affordable rentals, that's the LEAP program, and even our independent elder sites. So if we can convince that ISP that, hey, we're going to be building 10 houses here now, but as Josh talked about, we do have future builds coming. So if they see that they can increase their subscriptions, then they're more willing to work with us on that construction cost. Also, if they're not in that location, maybe if they're not in that area, that opens the door for some outside customers that they may not have had an option to get to. So what we do is try to ensure future builds for them and also for us. Also, one of the other costs that other solutions we have for the cost is paying portions of our resident service costs. So again, like I said, it's anywhere from $85 to $100 for a subscription to the internet service in this area. So what we've done is we do use some travel, NAHASTA, some travel dollars to offset some of the costs for our residents, especially those who might be on a fixed income. As far as the solutions for fiber, again, we're working with ISPs to provide fiber in areas where there is potential growth. So not just for housing, but also for, like I said, they're outside customers. So if we can bring them to an area where they're not located and they have an opportunity to not only do business with us, but also gain more customers from the community, that's a win for both of us. And that's something that we work very hard with those ISPs to try to manage, and that way that helps us offset that construction cost. The other option we have, again, is coaxial lines. So if fiber's very expensive, and I heard one ISP, and again, in a separate conference I was in, explain it this way. When they look at these construction costs and coming to a new area, they have to look at how many people live in the area, who they can potentially sell their product to. Is it feasible for them to go through the funds that they'll have to put in to bring that fiber to that area? So in some places, it's not feasible for that ISP to spend that money. Let's say we're bringing them to an area where we're building 10 homes. However, the population is maybe just under 2,000. It may not be feasible if all of those homes, if they can maybe get 50%, it may be feasible. But if it's under, it may not be feasible for them to bring fiber to there, and coaxial would be a cheaper choice. So those are some of the things we have discussions with our ISP to work with and see what our options could be on lowering some of our costs. And solutions for our digital education. Again, we're providing literacy training in groups, both in groups and one-on-one. And at the moment, we're having more success with one-on-one, where we can sit down with someone, in an hour or two time frame and go over some of their specific questions on how to use their tablets, how to use their email, how to use their Facebook, how to log into Facebook and do some of these social media, especially with our independent elders. That's how they meet and keep up with their family who may live, anywhere from 50 to 100 miles away. So providing that one-on-one has been the biggest win that we've had in dealing with the digital literacy that we're trying to bring to our people. Also, something we've done in both here recently and in the past is including our Choctaw Youth Advisory Board. So getting the younger people to come in and help us with these trainings, who, like I said, most of those, especially these that are growing up now, they've grown up in this technology. It's, you know, almost a second language to them. So having them come in and give you an example, we did a training with our independent elder site for here in Hugo on setting up an email, how to log in, how to create an email, and we had our youth advisory board kids come in and help with that. And I think it was enjoyable by both sides. You know, you had the younger generation teaching an older one a skill, and the elders teaching our younger generation about our culture and just their history in general. You know, so there was a win-win for both groups, and like I said, both the elders and the kids really enjoyed that. So that's something we hope to continue reaching out and doing those things with our people. Next slide, please. These are just some of the ISPs that we are working with. Right now, Vibe is our larger provider for most of our areas, with PineNet close behind them. PineNet is a local, more homegrown, whereas Vibe and Dobson are a little bigger than Pine. We also have Verizon here. Verizon, we use their 5G, 4 and 5G hotspots for areas where we don't have an ISP yet, or maybe we can't get an ISP to that area yet. So those are the solutions that we have at the moment. We're continuously looking for more. So, you know, if anyone has any suggestions that would benefit the Oklahoma area, you know, please share them with us. Next slide, please. I believe there's our contact information. You're welcome to give us a call or give us an email if you have any questions, thoughts that are outside of the presentation. But that is what we had to present to you guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and I'll turn it back over to Sebastian.
Great. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. I will leave the contact slide up. That way folks can jot down names, phone numbers, emails. But just to get to the QA part, as we have about 14 minutes remaining, the first question is for Melvin. Melvin mentioned that setting realistic benchmarks and timelines was important, and that the project ran into some weather and planning issues. Can he say a little more about the planning issues? For example, were these existing conditions issues discovered during construction, dependence on third parties, or just optimistic timelines?
Well, some of those issues were around the last mile, and that's where, you know, you were digging and locating existing lines and every that was already in existence. And actually, all of our communities are very old, and actually locating some of the original plans and things took some time, and for some of the communities. And so having all of that information in the beginning would have saved us some time. And then, of course, having to use third parties and working around their schedules. And then, you know, also working with the city of Durham and all of the utility companies as well.
Great. Thank you, Melvin. Next questions are for Choctaw Nation. What is the source of the nation's digital education and digital literacy training and curriculum?
Can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
Source of the nation's digital education. It's pretty much what myself and Shara can write as far as the curriculum. Right now, we're looking at basic needs, like I said, email. I know we're fixing to go to an online payment source for our rent, so that'll be something we'll be educating our independent elder side mainly, but those others that may need help with doing that. So right now we're really just doing this on an individual basis. We do have surveys and whatnot that we use that we're looking at to try to build a better curriculum. But like I said, at the moment, it is really just two of us. So a lot of the things that we're doing is basically one-on-one.
Thanks. Next question is the nation utilizing the Affordable Connectivity Program?
Yes, we are. However, that's handled by a separate program, not Connect Home, but we are utilizing that as well. I can tell you that we're getting a better participation or response from those who don't live in a Choctaw managed home. But that is something that we are utilizing as best we can.
Yes, we recommend it to everybody in the tribe that we talk to and come across. We do handle that. I mean, we do give it out. Like you said, there's another department that we talk to and we refer the applications and help them. We have a department that helps them fill out the applications and send it in.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next question is, have you possibly tried contacting Starlink to see if they would work with your program to provide internet to those hard to reach areas?
No, we have not reached out to Starlink or looked at that. That's one thing we are going, that's on a task list for us to do, to reach and see if we can actually utilize them in the areas here. And also with the cost and things like that. So
great. And I'll try to, next question, I believe it's trying to say is, how is managing the reach out to the community selection of beneficiaries and procurement by project?
For our excuse me, for our project, the 8 communities were chosen based on our school children. The idea was to get those communities connected because this started during COVID when there was distance learning taking place, and so those communities were prioritized.
Great, thank you. Next question is for Choctaw Nation. Have you worked with your local ISPs and the Oklahoma Broadband Office to work on applying for BEAD infrastructure funding?
yes, we do work with our local ISPs, and that's where like Tony was saying earlier, with Verizon, PineNet, Vive, Dobson, those are some of the local ones we have. Our procurement sends out RFPs to the ISPs, and also we are working with Oklahoma Broadband Office on the BEAD infrastructure. We have another, like I said, another department that's talking with them, and we're applying with the applications and stuff like that. So yes, we have looking all avenues.
Perfect. And there's just a comment from Dina Lehman Kim in the chat with HUD's PIH office. If you're interested, if you're an existing Connect Home USA community or interested in joining, please consider applying. Check out the Federal Register notice that outlines the process, and the link to that is in the chat. Last question is, what is the difference between Connect Home USA and the Affordable Connectivity Program? Great question, Jesse. Just to tackle this one from a high level, Connect Home USA is a designation from HUD, and the Affordable Connectivity Program is from the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, that helps provide subsidies both for devices as well as subsidies to families when it comes to ISPs and internet connectivity. So that's kind of a high level difference. There was also one question for Melvin that happened to be early on. Thank you to ICF, about where the funding was from. Melvin, can you just give a quick reminder of where the funding came from?
Yes, the city of Durham was able to use $1.4 million of their CARES Act funding.
Okay, great. And then there's a follow-up is, who has paid for this? Are residents responsible for paying for the service, or where would the funding come from?
Right, as I just stated, the CARES Act funding from the city of Durham paid for it, and it is absolutely free to our community members.
Great, thank you so much, Melvin, just for reiterating that it was CARES Act related. What accounts for the variability in cable installation cost per site from 25,000 to 80,000?
I'm sorry, was that for us, Sebastian?
Yes, I believe so. I'm trying to, yeah, I believe that's for Choctaw.
On the cable installation per cost per site, that just depends on the backfill, everything they have to do. And when it's fiber lines, how long it's got to be, like I said, how much digging the whole site is where that depends on the cost.
Great. I will let Dina help with the next couple of questions, but how can ConnectHomeUSA benefit communities that already have internet connections? It's a great designation that helps to unlock really the power of private and public partnerships. So sites, get to select their own goals. Now there's a notice that's publicly available, again, on the Federal Registrar, where sites can choose, sort of what level they want to engage with HUD. But there's great opportunities to network amongst ConnectHomeUSA communities to unlock access to perhaps potential private partners, depending on location and depending on what the goals of each site are. So it's not top down from HUD, but rather it is bottom up from HUD, where communities can engage based on what their goals are. Some might have a focus that they already have an ISP and they want to build out perhaps their training programs. As one example, there's a network, to help, get kids connected with digital literacy trainings. And so it's really targeted and tailored at the local level, depending on each community's goals. And the next question is, how may FCC proposed rule change around broadband as a utility change the game for us practitioners and our communities? I will defer to the FCC for that. I just don't want to speak for their behalf, as we're a separate agency. With that, want to just highlight some upcoming sessions. We will have at 2:30 Eastern, get to know ConnectHomeUSA's new nonprofit partner, Education Superhighway. We're very excited that they've joined Connect Home. We'll have a break, and then from 4 to 5 Eastern, we'll have concurrent sessions. The first one is implementing successful digital literacy training, a model from the Seattle Housing Authority, and free CHUSA digital literacy materials to get you started. The next concurrent session is from internet service provider to partner, partnering with ISPs to narrow the digital divide. And we'll have a whole host of ISPs joining that discussion. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you to Choctaw Nation and the Durham Housing Authority for their great presentations. With that, this concludes the session, and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.